had some really interesting reads this month that I'm very excited about, and a 5-star that you guys probably won't be expecting. Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori. How's everybody doing? How was your October? My October was a little crazy, I'm not gonna lie. I read 9 books and 1 short story in the month of October. It was kind of a varied month actually for reading, and I feel like I hit my stride a little bit again after some slumps throughout the summer and early fall. Of this group, I had 1 5-star, 5 4-stars, 3 3-stars, and 1 2-star, which I feel like is maybe a bigger range than normal. I continue to be the 4-star strumpet over here. I swear that is the most popular rating I give out at this point. I don't know why. I need to think about that, I guess. Maybe I don't. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. But we're here. I just work here. So anyways, let's talk about these books. The first book that I read in October, or finished rather, was A Fool's Hope by Mike Shackle. This is the second book in his Last War trilogy, which is a grimdark military fantasy. Now, I did do a wonderful discussion on this book and the one before it with my good friend John Morrow from the Grimdark magazine and Before We Go blog, and we have had such a good time buddy reading this series and chatting about it. We've also had the opportunity to chat a little bit with Mike Shackle, the author, and I am very excited to hopefully get to have him on the channel once we're done with the trilogy and do a whole big chat about his writing process in the series. So, if you are a fan of grimdark military fantasy or anything in between, I really can't recommend this series enough. I'm going to be doing some feature videos on this series once I finish it. If the landing is stuck. It's been one of those days. The characters in this are incredible. He does such a great job with the characters. The brutality of the world is given the severity and gravity that it deserves, but it never feels gratuitous. Now, that doesn't mean that it is not incredibly brutal, because it is, but he walks that line so well. So anyways, I gave this one a 4-star. I did not like it as much as book 1. There were some reasons for that that we talked about in the spoiler chat, but overall, I'm still in love with this trilogy, and I'm really, really hoping that that 3rd book is everything that I want it to be, and I cannot wait to read it. After that, I picked up The Swordsman's Lament by G.M. White. This one is a shorter book, and it's about a swashbuckling King's Champion swordsman who gets wrapped up in a murder mystery and is framed for the death of somebody that he cares very deeply about. Now, this one was my 2-star read for the month of October. There were so many things I wanted to love about it. I loved the idea of a veteran champion duelist kind of taking center stage. I feel like it's a different type of warrior than I read about in a lot of the fantasy books that I get into. Where this book really lost me is I felt like a lot of the emotional impact moments were not earned. I felt like we were dropped in at a point where we were just told to have the emotional investment in the relationships and the characters, and I never really found that it paid off. I wasn't really drawn in by anything, and I really had a hard time with the convenience of some things, but just the emotional investment really did not feel like it was earned. So that was my big issue with this. I do think that this book had a lot of cool things in it, and I think that's part of the reason why I was more disappointed, is because I wanted to love it. Next up, I read an adorable little novella called Death of a Christmas Tree Salesman by my friend Patricia Meredith. This is, Patricia, as you've heard me talk about her other series on the channel, if you've seen those with her Spokane Clock Tower mysteries, and now her series about Anna Catherine Green, who's the mother of detective fiction. Cozy murder mystery, this woman is just incredibly gifted at it, and she takes her turn at a Christmas version of her talents, and it's pretty adorable. It features Sam Shovel, who is a snowman that comes to life once a year during Christmas to solve mysteries. And she did so much research on the different types of Santas and Christmas traditions all around the world and featured a lot of them within this story. It was pretty cute. There's a lot of nostalgia in it. If you grew up watching the claymation Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, this is going to hit so many nostalgia points for you. It certainly did for me. But yeah, once again, Patricia really knocked it out of the park with this one. It's really adorable. And if you're looking for a Christmassy read with a little cozy nostalgia and also murder thrown in, this is the book for you. Next up was the short story that I picked up here in October, and that is Shattered Spirits by Cal Black. So in this story, we follow a young female professor named Corey Exley, who is on her way to the island of Ishcairn, a city that supposedly has a god buried underneath it. And on her way there, something catastrophic happens. This story is so gritty and horror flavored, and it packs a lot of punch in a small amount of pages, which I know is one of my catchphrases here on the channel, but honestly, it's very true in this case, and I think she does it incredibly well. She explores a lot of really interesting world building aspects within this short story, and there's another cool twist on the undead trope, which I always am interested in seeing. So this was definitely a very positive introduction to Cal Black's writing for me, and I'm looking forward to reading more. The next book that I read this month was Cold West by Clayton Snyder, and this book is actually now a finalist in the self-published fantasy blog off competition, so big congratulations to Clayton Snyder for making it to finals. That's really awesome. This book is the story of Will Cutter, who was a kind of mercenary killer. It's a fantasy western. He put aside his ways to get married and have a family. And all of that goes to crap when his wife passes away, leaving him as the sole protector and provider for two young boys. And he decides to revert back to what he knows best in order to provide for them. It gets dark very quickly. This story is such a raw and visceral exploration of grief and being haunted by one's past, and that draw to fall into the familiar even when it is unhealthy. And it's really a powerful read, and I think that Clayton really used the fantasy western setting perfectly within the story that he wanted to tell. He seamlessly interweaves it with magic, which is, again, in my opinion, it's difficult to do that really well. This book was really good, and I definitely can see why it made finals for the Spiffbo competition, and I think that that is well deserved. The next book that I finished this month is actually one that I've been reading with my son for the last few months, and that is the Mapmaker Chronicles Book 1, Race to the End of the World. This one, it's a middle grade book, so I have to, keep that in mind and rate it with a grain of salt. One of the things that is often difficult for me in middle grade books is that there's a lot of convenience going on, and sometimes the character motives fall more in line with the plot than actual character motives. But we'll just put that to the side. This is actually a pretty good middle grade read. My son is absolutely loving it, and he is just about to turn 11. This is the story of a young boy named Quinn, who is kind of drafted to be the map maker on a race around the globe to map out the entire world. And he and his ship encounter all sorts of hazards and things as they're going. We're now into book 2, and if you are looking for a middle grade read for your kids or even yourself, I think this one is pretty decent. There's a lot of really great characters in this book, and it's been really fun to read it with him. Next up, I read another tiny book called The Recollections of Rifleman Harris. This is a memoir that is partially contested. Nobody's actually sure who really wrote it, and if it's actually the story of the person that's the main narrator, but that's kind of a side thing. This is the story of a young man who was a rifleman in the Napoleonic Wars, and it's a war memoir. And one of the things that was a little tricky for me with this one is because it is kind of a diary of the daily goings-on or the events that happened within a particular war campaign. It did feel a little bit like a to-do list after a while, especially in the first half. There was a lot of, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this person died, and then this happened, and so on and so forth. There was a lot more interesting things to dig into, I feel like, especially in the second half where they were retreating. And it was a very long retreat. I often enjoy reading war literature like this. I do think that this one reads a little bit more like a historical account than something that, like, you have to go into it with that expectation, but it was an era that I hadn't really delved into before, so I found that really interesting. After I finished the Recollections of Benjamin Harris, I picked up Jade War by Fonda Lee. I'm doing a read-along for the Greenbone Saga here on my channel, and this is book 2 of the Greenbone Saga. Now this one, I have a vlog that you can go and watch with my full thoughts on this, but what I will say about it is that I didn't like it as much as I liked Jade City. The expectation that you go into with this book is a little thwarted, I feel like, because we have more of a economic and political war going on as opposed to the physical street war that we kind of started in book 1. And there was a lot of information in here. There was a lot of information. The world expands, which I expected it to, but what I was struggling with a lot was that the close emotional investment that I had with the characters really took a back seat in this book because there was so much information and economic and political information that was being thrown at me through much of this book. And for me particularly as a reader, I tend to lean more on the character investment than I do the elements of the world. I'm really excited to finish this trilogy and see how it ends and see where I land on Jade Legacy, because I've heard a lot of things about the ending to this trilogy, so I'm really looking forward to checking it out. Now I get to the 5-star read of this month, and that was Gone to the Woods by Gary Paulsen. This is the memoir, third-person memoir of Gary Paulsen, who is a beloved American author of books like Hatchet and Dog Song. He's a Newbery Award winner, and I had the honor of teaching next to him at an adult writers conference way back. I think I was like 16 years old, and he had come down from Alaska, taking a break from dog sled racing to come to this adult writers conference and teach, and I had a chance to talk to him a little bit while he was there. And he was just such a cool, interesting person. And when I saw that he had written a kind of memoir about his childhood and how the woods had really become so much a part of who he was as a person and the best parts of his life amidst honestly a really atrocious upbringing in a lot of ways. This was an incredible book. It's told in third person, so he refers to himself as a character, and it's just a really vulnerable and honest read, and I really, really appreciated it. I thought it was really beautiful, so I highly recommend this if you're looking for a good memoir. Last but not least, I picked up The Short Timers by Gustav Hasford, and this book was actually kind of hard to get. I got it from a college library. You can't buy it for less than like $80, $90, $100 anywhere on the internet that I've found, and it's out of print. So when I went hunting for it, it was a little tricky to find, but I finally got this very sad copy that has been, this book has been through some things. This is the story of a group of men who are Marines in the Vietnam War. And like a lot of war fiction, it is very heavy, it is very brutal, and it is hard to read. It is unapologetic in the starkness of what this group of men went through, and again, this is an era of history that I want to delve into more when it comes to war fiction, but I can definitely see why this book is lauded as an excellent piece of Vietnam War fiction. It is very well done. It is a very heavy read, so just if you're going to check it out, be aware of that. But overall, this is a very impactful, stark look at the reality that a lot of these Marines faced in Vietnam. That is my October reading month. I hope that you guys had a great October. I would love to know what you read, what were your favorites, what didn't work for you, anything you want to tell me about your reads in October, drop those down in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a great week. Hope you're reading 5-star reads, and I will see you in the next video.